Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Before we get into the main topic of today's video, I just want to say thank you for enjoying the most recent upload. My first video to hit over 1,000 views, and it's still trucking along. I think we're at like 1.5, 1.6 right now. The amount of comments, the engagement in the comment section was so fun just chatting with everybody. And because of how successful the video was, I mean, we ballooned up to 138 subscribers. So yeah, just a pretty cool milestone. I really appreciate you guys, and I hope you just continue to enjoy the content. So we just recently gotten an announcement for Metal Gear Solid Delta, a full-on remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, one of the more legendary titles to release in video game history. And as someone who just recently played Metal Gear Solid 3 for the first time ever a couple of weeks back, I want to do a couple of things with this video. Firstly, I just want to dissect Metal Gear Solid 3, kind of like a non-spoiler pseudo review, just sort of break it down in case you're curious about trying it out for yourself. And secondly, I want to answer the question, do I think you should play Metal Gear Solid 3 prior to Metal Gear Solid Delta's release? So I'd like to start off by just clearing the air, in case there are some who don't know. Despite Metal Gear Solid 3 being the third numbered game in the series, it's actually the first in the timeline, chronologically. So you can absolutely start with Metal Gear Solid 3 with no prior context or experience with the Metal Gear franchise, and you'll be squeaky clean. You'll be totally fine. And it makes perfect sense why they would choose this one to remake, as, you know, if it sells well, if it reviews well, is received well, I would imagine they would just continue with chronological remakes from here on out. But with that out of the way, let's jump into Metal Gear Solid 3's gameplay. So right away, a major highlight of Metal Gear Solid 3 has to be its over-the-shoulder third-person perspective. This is the first time they attempted this in the series. Using the dual analog setup is vastly more comfortable than the previous title's fixed camera angles, in my opinion. The ability to peek around corners and get a better sense of your surroundings is fantastic, and the new camera control means the developers had to make a more detailed and immersive world for us to explore, but more on that later. So great, we've got kind of a more modern camera control scheme. That's good. What can I say about the rest of the controls? They may not have aged particularly well. And look, I won't bore you with a complete breakdown of all the controls and mechanics, but I will give an example to highlight what I'm talking about here. Obviously, in modern shooters, we aim down sights with the left trigger and we shoot with the right. Pretty straightforward. But in this title, you aim with the right trigger, which puts you into first-person mode, then you adjust your shot with the left thumbstick, and you shoot your weapon with square. Also, you can't manually reload, you just have to empty your clip. This definitely throws you off for the first couple of hours as you find yourself fighting against years of muscle memory, but I can assure you, you do eventually adjust. What I will say, however, is these design choices almost feel deliberately clunky. I mean, everything you do in the game takes time, preparation, and extensive thought, even aiming and shooting a weapon. I don't know, maybe that's a cop-out answer, but I think if the controls were super fine-tuned for a third-person action combat, it might actually break the balance of the game, even suck some of the tension out of certain situations. The careful and methodical approach to even simple tasks really pushes the idea to play this game as slowly as possible. Think like a spy. It pays off to crawl to a good vantage point, pull out your binoculars and scout the area ahead, study and memorize enemy patrol routes, use your large arsenal of tools like the sonar, mine detector, or traps. All the time spent to navigate past security without detection feels more rewarding than any high-intensity action sequence or cinematic takedown. And while Metal Gear Solid 3 may not be a true simulation style of video game, it definitely operates under the guise of realism in a lot of ways. I realized during my initial playthrough, Metal Gear Solid 3 is one of those games that if you think you can do something, there's a decent chance it could be done within the confines of the game's systems and tools, of course. Some tinkering, imagination, and experimentation may reveal a multitude of ways to tackle any given situation. But as far as simulation elements, I'd say the camouflage system is a pretty good example. It's more intricate than most stealth action games I've played. If you keep your eyes peeled, Snake can find and collect different face paints and fatigues to help him blend in with his environments. You'll be swapping clothes quite a bit throughout the game to get your camouflage percentage as high as possible. The percentage is marked in the top right of the screen and is affected by the type of camouflage you're wearing, whether the player is moving or standing still, your position, be it standing, crouching, or laying down, or hiding in shadows and tall grass. These all have a combined effect on your stealth rating. But understand, and I thought this was kind of cool, no matter how high your stealth rating is, you're never truly invisible from enemy detection. In modern games, I almost feel like tall grass is a bit broken at times. Like, as long as you're crouched in tall grass, you're essentially invisible to the entire world. Like, it is the ultimate safety net. Nothing can hurt you there. But in Metal Gear Solid 3, you could be prone in tall grass with a 95% stealth rating, but if you try to crawl through that grass while an enemy is facing your general direction, they will notice the movement or hear the disturbance and alert their comrades. Just another aspect that pushes the player to take their time, be careful, and plan ahead. Movement is also a tad unique. Snake can either stand, crouch, or lay prone, but cannot move while crouched. If you try to move while crouched, Snake will automatically lie down and begin to crawl. Once again, something to get used to. He also has a designated sneak button. Hold down left trigger while moving, and Snake will tiptoe for an easy approach and stealth takedown. You can also hang off ledges or climb up trees if you're in a pinch. I also found the healing in Metal Gear Solid 3 to be a bit unique. Yeah, there are health packs, and there are some instances where you can regenerate your health just by laying prone for a little while. But if you get shot and you have like an acute injury, you can actually pause the game, go into the menus, and there's a cure menu. And if you have a bullet wound or you've been cut by a knife, you actually have to apply stitches or sutures, disinfect the area. You can burn leeches off of your body with a cigar, and that helps you generate health faster. I'll admit it does get kind of tedious at times, but all in all, a fun idea. But I think I've talked enough about the stealth side of Metal Gear Solid 3 because, don't get it twisted, there's definitely some action to be had as well. Perhaps you were spotted and enemy reinforcements are flooding in from all sides, or you're infiltrating a Russian mountain camp. There's a helicopter circling above and some conveniently placed mounted chain guns in your path. This is where you get to bust out the AK-47, the SVD sniper, or the RPG and have a bit of fun. You've also got boss encounters to look forward to, each with their own distinct mechanics and narrative implications. And I'll say overall, I was pretty happy with the boss encounters of MGS3, but I do think this is where Delta could really boost the game to the next level. Like the boss encounters sometimes were a little stiff, a little basic. I think this is the place where the most substantial changes could be done for the better. Except for the end boss fight. I loved fighting the end. Let's keep that one how it was, okay? So all in all, the gameplay is fantastic once you get accustomed to some of the unconventional controls, and I'll be curious to see how much they change and leave alone in the remake. From a visual standpoint, they really took advantage of the PS2 hardware and created some gorgeous set pieces and environments. In particular, the jungle areas, which make up a majority of the game, felt overflowing with foliage and wildlife. Tropical sound effects adding to the ambience, it really did feel like Snake was battling the harshness of the rainforest at times and added what I felt was a really important theme of survival to the narrative. I'd be down if they fleshed out the survival aspects even more in the remake. I'm not usually into this kind of stuff, but it'd be kind of cool if you had to like set up a camp to rest or build fires to cook food. Continue to press into the idea of survival in a harsh climate. They already do this a lot with the inclusion of venomous snakes, leech-infested swamps, and the need to hunt and forage for food, but I'd be down for even a bit more. Now, due to the limitations of the PS2, the map is sectioned off into smaller sized zones that you pass through loading screens to access, but the environments are so well done. The jungle still manages to feel endless if you could only jump over the barriers set in place by the developers. I have to imagine the remake will feature no load times between sections of the map, creating a seamless transition from one side to the other. And outside of gameplay come the cinematic cutscenes. Now, it's a well-known fact that Hideo Kojima is a massive movie fanatic, and it's kind of crazy that someone with so much fame and money and resources hasn't just gone and directed his own film by now, although I think he is making like a documentary about himself or something, but Anyways, the way in which these cutscenes are pieced together is absolutely cinematic in nature, with a wide variety of camera angles, dynamic cuts and transitions, and even the use of movie tropes like slow motion. Hideo loves him some slow motion. One drawback I could see some having with the cutscenes is they can be pretty lengthy. I would say on average between 5 to 10 minutes, 15. I think the longest cutscene in the game, I actually looked this up, is 24 minutes long. So I don't know. So some people have issues with that. It doesn't really bother me, especially because the cutscenes were so chock full of great content and it was always fun to watch them. Because yeah, these aren't just your everyday cutscenes. Whenever one boots up, sit back, relax, and bust out the popcorn.
Don't worry, though. The one I've got for you is American-made.
$45, huh? Incredible.
Do you like it?
The feeding ramp is polished to a mirror sheen. The slide's been reinforced, and the interlock with the frame is tightened for added precision. The sight system is original too. The thumb safety is extended to make it easier on the finger. A long type trigger with non-slip grooves. A ring hammer. The base of the trigger guard's been filed down for a higher grip. And not only that, nearly every part of this gun has been expertly crafted and customized. Where'd you get something like this?
Now the music is no slouch either, from soft melodic tracks that can build tension, high-intensity action techno, and I'm not a music whiz, so don't judge me if I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I really picked up on their use of I don't know, bongos and other tribal-esque instruments to bring out more from that jungle setting. Sorry, bongos are just like the only instrument that I know that kind of like fits the mold of what I'm talking about. And lastly, I want to comment on the atmosphere as we transition into the story of Metal Gear Solid 3. This game does a really great job of promoting a feeling of isolation, something I didn't entirely pick up on until I started playing Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. In Peace Walker, you have a home base, a place for Snake to retreat to in between missions, recover, and prepare for the next obstacle. You've also got friendly NPCs and an army of allies to provide support from mission to mission. This is not the case in Metal Gear Solid 3. They make it very clear from the beginning that you are on your own behind enemy lines. If Snake is captured, he's at the mercy of the Russian military, and the United States will deny all involvement. Sure, we are in communication with Major Zero over the radio, but we have no official boots-on-the-ground assistance from our home country. Everything is on Snake's shoulders, but that's also what makes him so badass, because he's likely the only person on the planet who can handle it. Now, if you take everything I've told you so far at face value, it's just another video game. I mean, it's a really good one, but you could probably find another military-based stealth action game that is at least comparable to this. But for me, what really separates Metal Gear Solid 3 from other games in its own genre is its characters and story. Let's start with the tone. I can't speak for many of the other games in the series, but Metal Gear Solid 3 is hilarious. Yes, it absolutely has some hard-hitting emotional moments, explores some pretty deep real-world issues, and the overall plot of preventing nuclear war is as serious as they come. But so many of the moment-to-moment scenarios and characters are played up beyond belief or are simply outrageous. And I think where the game gets the majority of its humor from is just the fact that Snake as a character overall is very serious. Like he takes everything very seriously at face value. And then all the characters around him are so for lack of a better term, extra. And when you put those kinds of characters next to a very serious, stoic Snake, the chemistry is just off the charts. And trust me, I'd love more than anything to give example after example of moments that cracked me up or to analyze each one of these icons right here in this video, but I'm going to hold off due to fear of spoiling some incredible reveals. Okay, I'll give one example. There is a boss whose superpower is bees. Extrapolate from that what you like. But believe me when I say the story is so effective at switching between the emotional beats and the absurdity. If I had to draw a comparison of Metal Gear Solid 3 and James Bond, which if you've played the game, I think you'd agree is a fair comparison, Metal Gear Solid 3 is like James Bond with a dash of Austin Powers sprinkled throughout. And again, without spoiling anything, the story is just so dang effective in nearly every way. Faced with seemingly insurmountable odds, wondering if Snake can really pull this off, questioning what it means to be a loyal soldier, and not knowing who you can really trust. The mystery is exciting, the tension is constant, and the charisma behind each word of written and voice-acted dialogue is superb. Frankly, I could go on and on about this game's story, but I think I'm going to save that for the eventual Metal Gear Solid Delta review whenever that game decides to bless us with its presence. So I think that's enough on the Metal Gear Solid 3 side of things. Now we can quickly go over what we've seen of Metal Gear Solid Delta. Of course, we got the CGI trailer reveal at the most recent Sony presentation, and it had some very cool references, symbolism, and of course an updated visual design for Snake, which looked very clean. But on top of that, we got a couple of in-game screenshots that when compared side by side, definitely push the idea that this is shaping up to be a one-for-one remake. Some very recognizable areas like the bridge, which Snake and the boss have their confrontation, the Rosfet factory where we search for Sokolov, or this comparison shot that somebody put together indicating that even tree and enemy placement may be identical. And unfortunately, I mean, that's about it. We are patiently waiting for more information, but with all of that said, we can actually answer the main question of this video. Do I think you should play Metal Gear Solid 3 prior to Delta's release? And I'm going to say pretty definitively, yes. Yes, I think you should. And I say that for this reason. When I first saw the trailer for Metal Gear Solid Delta, I was really excited. I thought to myself, finally I can experience the Metal Gear Solid franchise in a more modern style that I found more comfortable. Of course, the curiosity proved to be too much and I ended up diving into the original anyways, but after finishing Metal Gear Solid 3, the first thing I did was rewatch that trailer for Delta. And when I say goosebumps, oh my god, goosebumps. And at the end of the trailer, when the Snake Eater theme begins to play, I actually welled up in tears. Tears of pure excitement and anticipation.
What a thrill, with darkness and silence through the night.
If I enjoyed Metal Gear Solid 3 this much, despite a few learning curves, how might a more modernized version enhance my love for this game? Seeing iconic moments and characters redone for a modern audience is always an exciting prospect. Metal Gear Solid Delta is currently my most anticipated game for the foreseeable future, barring maybe a Metroid Prime 4 re-reveal. Of course, yes, you can skip Metal Gear Solid 3 and go straight into Delta. If we assume it's going to be a solid and faithful remake, then that'll be a great jumping off point for many to try out the series. And as I said earlier, assuming Delta sells and is received well, I have no doubt they would just continue to fund more and more remakes for us to enjoy. But if you want that extra layer of hype going into Delta, I have to recommend you play Metal Gear Solid 3 first. And don't think of it as homework like, oh boo, I have to play this game before Delta. No, you get to play Metal Gear Solid 3 with an addition of extra hype for Delta. Obviously, the best way to play Metal Gear Solid 3 is going to be on the upcoming Master Collection releasing for all modern consoles. I believe that comes out on October 24th. I don't know if it's going to have any additional enhancements outside of what it's already received in previous re-releases, but it also comes with Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, the original 2D Metal Gear games that were on the NES and whatnot, and some digital comic books and behind-the-scenes info as well. So outside of emulation, that's definitely going to be your best place to play the game. So that's that. I can't wait to see more from Metal Gear Solid Delta, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments, have you or have you not played MGS3, and how is that affecting your hype for Delta? I look forward to hearing from you all. Until next time, peace.
No.